The ocean was calm that morning, the kind of stillness that made the water look like glass. I stood barefoot on the polished teak deck of the Serenity Belle, my yacht, with a coffee cup warming my palms. The breeze teased the loose strands of my hair, carrying the faint scent of salt and sunscreen. From this vantage point, I could see the marina below, a scatter of sleek white vessels, and beyond them, a massive cruise ship preparing to set sail. My phone buzzed on the railing beside me. I almost ignored it, but the preview caught my eye, a photo of champagne flutes lined up against a bright blue horizon, captioned, "Wish you were here." The sender's name, Tessa, pulled me backward in time like a rip current. I could hear her voice, the same mocking lilt she'd used a year ago when she'd called to say, "We had to downsize our cabin, there's no room for you on the cruise, hun." I'd laughed it off then, but the sting had settled deep, somewhere I didn't let anyone see. Now, I took a slow sip of my coffee and glanced toward the cruise ship again. My lips curled into the smallest smile. They didn't know that the woman they'd uninvited was standing just a few hundred feet away, on the yacht she owned outright. A year ago, I was a different woman. No yacht. No crew waiting for my instructions. Just me, a beat-up Honda Civic, and a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in Jacksonville. Tessa had been my closest friend since college, or at least I thought she was. We'd met in our sophomore year, bonding over late-night pizza and a shared dream of seeing the world. She was bold, loud, the life of every party. I was quieter, a listener, always the one to snap the pictures instead of being in them. When she called me that spring, her voice practically vibrated through the phone. "We're doing a Bahamas cruise. A whole group, me, Ryan, the Mitchells, Chloe. You have to come." I'd hesitated. My savings weren't exactly overflowing, but the idea of warm beaches and old friends had been too tempting. I scraped together the deposit, picked out a new swimsuit, and even requested time off from the small marketing firm where I worked. Then, 2 weeks before departure, she called again. Her tone was different this time, light but edged with something sharp. "So, funny thing. We had to change cabins and it's smaller. We can't fit everyone." "I'm so sorry, babe. You understand, right?" I remember gripping my phone so hard my knuckles went white. "You're uninviting me?" "Oh, don't make it sound so bad," she laughed. "It's just logistics. Next time, okay?" Next time. After I hung up, I sat on the floor for a long time, staring at the deposit receipt on my coffee table. The worst part wasn't losing the trip, it was realizing that, to them, I was the extra baggage. The one you leave behind without thinking twice. That night, I dug out a silver compass pendant my grandmother had given me on my 18th birthday. She'd pressed it into my hand and said, "Life will try to push you off course, Emma. But you get to choose where you sail." I'd worn it on and off for years, but that night, I clasped it around my neck like armor. And I made myself a promise. Next time I saw Tessa and the others, I wouldn't be standing on the dock waving goodbye. I'd be the one deciding who stepped aboard. The morning after Tessa's call, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and a cup of overbrewed coffee, staring at a blank page. I'd spent years working for people who barely knew my name outside of a payroll slip. But that rejection, that sharp, humiliating moment, lit something in me. I started scribbling ideas. Skills I had. Connections I could reach out to. Things I could sell, build, or create. My marketing background wasn't glamorous, but I knew how to make people pay attention. I just had to choose the right product or service. That's when I thought about the waterfront properties I passed every weekend, the half-empty marinas, the older yachts with for sale signs gathering dust. Luxury wasn't just about ownership, it was about presentation. I realized there was a market for rebranding and managing these vessels for rental. High-end photo shoots, curated experiences, custom itineraries. I could sell a dream. I didn't have the capital to buy a boat, but I didn't need to. I needed one owner willing to trust me. That owner turned out to be Linda Hayes, a widow in her 60s with a 45-foot yacht she hadn't used in years. I met her at a networking brunch through a client, and we ended up talking about travel over mimosas. I pitched her the idea. I'd refresh the yacht's branding, photograph it, create an online presence, and manage the bookings. She'd pay me a percentage of the rentals. To my shock, she agreed. The first months were brutal. I worked my day job, then spent evenings scrubbing decks, arranging flowers, styling interiors for shoots. I learned the language of marinas, slip fees, maintenance schedules, fuel costs. I met captains, brokers, and crew members, all while teaching myself the logistics of luxury service. The first booking was a small bachelorette weekend, 2 nights, good money. Then a corporate retreat. Then a week-long charter for a honeymoon couple from Chicago. Each time, my confidence grew along with my savings account. Linda introduced me to other yacht owners. Some were skeptical, but my results spoke for themselves. Soon, I was managing 5 vessels, each one booked months in advance. By the time I turned 32, I had enough saved and enough credit to make my own purchase. Not a starter boat, but a yacht that turned heads when it pulled into port, the Serenity Belle. White hull, champagne trim, 2 decks, and a master suite with a view that made you forget the world. I didn't post about it. I didn't flaunt it. My social media was still pictures of sunsets, coffee cups, and the occasional dinner out. To everyone from my past, I was just Emma from Jacksonville, still doing marketing work, maybe a little busier than before. But in my private world, I was charting courses through turquoise waters, negotiating contracts with international clients, and quietly building a life where no one could decide if I belonged. And every time I walked the deck, the silver compass at my neck reminded me, this was my course now. The first time I saw them again was purely by chance. The Serenity Belle was docked in Nassau for a 3-day private charter pickup. I'd just wrapped a meeting with my captain when I noticed a familiar shape on the horizon, a gleaming white cruise ship pulling into port, passengers crowding the balconies, snapping photos of the turquoise water below. I almost dismissed it. Nassau was busy this time of year. Cruise ships came and went daily. But as the gangway lowered and the first wave of passengers spilled onto the pier, I caught sight of a blonde ponytail I'd know anywhere. Tessa. She was wearing oversized sunglasses, a floral sundress, and that effortless smile she always saved for when she knew people were watching. A small group trailed behind her, Ryan, the Mitchells, Chloe, all chatting as if they were still in their perfectly curated social bubble. I might have kept walking, but fate had other plans. The pier for cruise passengers ran right past the private yacht slips, which meant that to get to their shuttle, they'd have to walk by my deck. I didn't rush. I took my time, adjusting the cushions on the lounge chairs, giving quiet instructions to a crew member polishing the stainless railings. The Serenity Belle gleamed under the morning sun, her champagne trim catching the light like gold. That's when I heard it. Oh my God, is that Emma? I turned slowly, coffee cup in hand. Tessa had stopped mid-step, her sunglasses slipping just far enough for me to see the widening of her eyes. Hi, Tessa. My voice was calm, almost conversational. Enjoying your cruise? She glanced at the yacht, then back at me. Wait, are you working here? Like, for the owner? I smiled. In a way, I am the owner. The words landed like a stone in still water. I could feel the ripple pass through the group. Ryan's eyebrows shot up, Chloe's mouth opened slightly, and the Mitchells exchanged quick, awkward glances. You own this. Tessa's voice faltered for the first time in the 10 years I'd known her. I let my gaze travel over the Serenity Belle, the polished teak deck, the curved glass railings, the subtle monogram towels neatly rolled in a basket. Yes. Bought her last year. She's been keeping me busy. Ryan tried for humor. Wow. That's unexpected. I guess you never know where life will take you, I said, resting my hand lightly on the compass pendant at my throat. The silence that followed was almost sweet. No snide remarks, no polite dismissal. Just the weight of them realizing the girl they'd left behind in Jacksonville was now standing on the deck of a multi-million-dollar yacht and holding all the cards. You should come aboard, I offered finally, if you have time before your next shore excursion. Tessa blinked, then nodded. Too quickly, too eagerly. The crew stepped aside as they climbed onto the deck. I watched them take it all in, the teak flooring warm underfoot, the outdoor bar stocked with chilled champagne, the shaded lounge area where the ocean breeze flowed like silk. Inside, the main salon glowed with soft cream upholstery, glass vases of fresh orchids, and framed photographs from ports around the world. "This is incredible," Chloe whispered. I shrugged, a small smile tugging at my lips. "It's home." By the time we reached the upper deck, where the horizon stretched endless and blue, they were quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when there's nothing left to say without admitting the truth. They'd misjudged me, written me off. And now, they were standing in the proof of how wrong they'd been. I let them sit with that. Sometimes silence says more than any speech. We settled into the shaded lounge, the hum of the marina filling the pauses in conversation. A steward appeared with a tray of chilled champagne flutes, the bubbles catching the light like tiny stars. Tessa accepted hers with a stiff smile, though I could see the questions swirling in her eyes. "So, how did you?" she began. I raised a hand gently. "Before I answer that, I need to say something." All eyes were on me now. Even Ryan, who usually filled silences with jokes, stayed quiet. "I remember the call," I said evenly. "The one where you told me there wasn't room for me on the cruise." I told myself it didn't matter. But it did. Not because I missed the trip, but because it showed me exactly where I stood with all of you. Tessa opened her mouth, but I didn't give her the space to interrupt. "You saw me as an afterthought. Someone you could leave behind without a second thought. And I promised myself I'd never be in that position again." The group shifted uncomfortably. Chloe's gaze dropped to her lap. "Now, you're on my deck. My home. And if I invite you to stay, it will be on my terms." I let that hang in the air for a moment before continuing. "The first condition is respect. For me, for my crew, for the space you're in. No condescension, no jokes at my expense." I set my champagne down. "Second, honesty. If you have something to say to me, you say it to my face. Not in group chats, not behind my back." My gaze drifted to Ryan, who shifted under it. "Third, don't bring the same energy that pushed me out of your circle. If you're here as a guest and as someone who treats people like they belong." No one spoke right away. The hum of the harbor, the faint call of seagulls, and the clink of ice in glasses seemed to underline the weight of my words. Tessa swallowed, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. "You're right. We were wrong. I was wrong." It wasn't the dramatic apology I might have once imagined, but it was real. "I care about all of you," I said, softening my tone. "But I care about myself more now. That's the difference." The Mitchells nodded, Chloe murmured agreement, and even Ryan managed. Fair enough. I leaned back in my chair, letting the breeze wash over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely in control, not because I had the bigger boat, but because I knew exactly where I stood, and I'd set the boundaries to protect that. "Then," I said with a smile, "welcome aboard." The afternoon drifted by in a warm haze of laughter and salt air. At first, the conversations were tentative, safe topics, travel stories, little jokes. But slowly, something shifted. Chloe helped one of the stewards pass out snacks without being asked. Ryan complimented the crew on their work, a rare note of humility in his voice. The Mitchells wandered the deck together, pointing out the distant quays like they were seeing the ocean for the first time. Tessa stayed close to me. We didn't talk about the past, not in detail, but there was a heaviness in her pauses, a weight behind her questions about my business, my travels, my life now. I answered what I wanted to, kept some things to myself. Boundaries felt good. As the sun began to dip, the Serenity Bell's captain eased us away from the dock for a short sunset cruise. The sky melted into pink and gold, the sea catching every color like liquid glass. I leaned on the rail, fingers brushing the compass pendant at my throat. In the fading light, I remembered the night I clasped it on again, sitting on the floor of my tiny apartment, still stinging from rejection. My grandmother's words echoed in my head. "Life will try to push you off course, Emma. But you get to choose where you sail." I had chosen. Tessa joined me at the rail, her voice low. "I'm glad we ran into you today." I smiled, eyes still on the horizon. "So am I." We stood in companionable silence until the first stars appeared. Somewhere behind us, glasses clinked and the soft hum of conversation carried on. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need to prove anything. But it felt good to know that the woman they had once left behind was now charting her own course, with a vessel that could sail anywhere she wanted. As the last light dipped below the horizon, I turned toward the open sea, my voice quiet but certain. They uninvited me from the cruise, so I showed them who owned a yacht.